You're watching TAG TV. You're watching TAG TV.
Help me support and welcome the candidate and the next Member of Parliament for London North Centre, Salim Mansur.
Good evening. Good evening, my friends, and welcome. As Robert was speaking, the following thought was going through my mind, that Maxime, my friend, had not only built a party, the fastest growing party in this country, but Maxime has built a Team Canada where any one of us who is member of his team can be a designated hitter. And that Robert could do it. My friends, thank you for coming out. Thank you for joining us this evening. On behalf of the members of the People's Party and the PPC candidates in London, all my friends, and those from the southwestern region of Ontario, welcome. It is our great pleasure and joy to have in our midst the Honourable Maxime Bernier. The leader of the People's Party and the future Prime Minister of our beloved Canada. Our beloved Canada that our founding fathers called the Lord's Dominion, from sea to shining sea. Before Maxime takes the podium, permit me to share a few thoughts of mine with you on multiculturalism that is the main subject of his remarks for this evening, titled Costs of Multiculturalism. Maxime is the only leader, as I just mentioned, of the fastest growing Federalist Party in Canada, the People's Party, to speak openly and publicly on subjects concerned taboo by the elite establishment, and has paid attendance in the media and in the academia, who together have administered our country, regardless of which of the Tweedledee or Tweedledum parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives, have held the nation's steering wheel in Ottawa. There are two sacred cows in Canadian politics: immigration and multiculturalism. Any critical discussion of either is considered by the watchdogs of our elite establishment operating out of Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto as politically incorrect and therefore reprehensible. But my friends, it is well past the time that of critical discussion or questioning of any subject in Canadian politics and society is any longer considered a taboo, or decried as politically incorrect by the watchdogs of the elite establishment, while those doing the questioning are smeared as bigots and racists. Maxime has already laid out a clearly distinct and bold immigration policy of the People's Party of Canada and invited Canadians to freely and honestly examine it. We are not intimidated, my friends, by smear from those who lack courage and the honesty to engage with us on the substance of the policy, which are and have been carefully considered on the basis of our national interests. Maxime has presented numbers and described the metrics of sustainable policy to Canadians ahead of a federal election for the people to judge its merit and express their views before they vote. It will be for the people to decide, after they have examined this policy presented by Maxime, in contrast to the position of other federal parties who hide behind endless platitudes about compassion and generosity in solving the problems of the world through an open-door immigration policy without any ceiling on numbers. In other words, an immigration policy pushed by the elite establishment together with multiculturalism is and will irrevocably change our country for the worse long before the seas rise and ice caps melt and polar bears disappear. Our immigration policy and our multiculturalism policy are both long past their expiry dates. This is why Maxime and the People's Party are committed to critically re-examine these policies, engage with Canadians, and seek their input, as these policies have real-life consequences for all of us, and amend, redefine, rewrite, or repeal in whole or in part these policies that no longer serve nor secure Canadian interests. You know, my friends, as Robert has mentioned, I wrote a book titled Delectable Lie, a liberal repudiation of multiculturalism. In it, I discussed why official multiculturalism introduced by the former Prime Minister, the late Pierre Trudeau, needed to be repealed because its major premise is based on a falsehood. And as a delectable or sweet lie, it is a toxin, a poison, corrosive of the foundational values of Canada as a liberal democracy. Official multiculturalism is based on the idea that all cultures are equal. Now, my friends, You and I both know this is a flat-out lie. Since anyone with a smidgen of historical awareness and intellectual honesty knows that cultures are not equal, never has been equal. And to state that a culture which puts man on the moon, decodes the genome, and constitutionally protects individual freedom is equal to a culture that denies the equality of sexes, has little or no record of any modern scientific achievement, and where the idea of individual freedom is practically non-existent. To suggest such an outrageous statement that all cultures are equal when this is the reality of the world that which we live in and have always lived in was a patent lie. And yet we Canadians, given our sense of generosity, our compassion, are willing always to extend our hands to our neighbors, bought into that lie. The adoption of the idea of multiculturalism in the early 1970s carried the imprint of the era in which it was introduced. If you recall, 1970s, it was the era of the Cold War between the Western democracies and the former Soviet Union with its communist bloc in Eastern Europe. It was the era in the United States of the Civil Rights Movement, which had its overflow into Canada. And it was the era of the Vietnam War. It was the era at the end of the decolonization of the European imperial possessions. And it was the era, and this is most important, my friends, looking back almost half a century, it was the era of the beginning of self-doubt in the West, of questioning its past in a manner that would morph into deconstructing its history as a series of wrongs perpetrated against other non-European peoples and cultures without any redeeming value of its own cultural achievements that made the West, including Canada, unique in terms of building a civilization based on liberal democratic values founded on individual rights and freedom. When a people lose their own sense of history, no one can save them. That was the beginning a half a century ago, and we have arrived at a point in time when our leaders can talk about, without any compunction, of giving up on their country. The central idea pulsating through the making of the West, from the signing of the Magna Carta to the birth of the American Republic, is the principle that all men are created equal. My friends, know, all men, in the language of the time, or hence, all individuals are created equal, and not all cultures. The founding fathers of the United States and Canada understood well this simple axiom about freedom and equality. It was this principle that all men are created equal. Let me take a diversion here for a moment. This principle, all men are created equal, takes its birth and flourishes in the making of the Western civilization. I was born in a civilization riddled by caste system. I know the difference between all men are created equal. That all of us, irrespective of the differences in our fingerprints, are made in the image of God. In contrast to a culture in which I was born, not of my choosing. The only thing of my choosing is the life I made or the opportunity that was given to me. So the culture into which I was born is a culture of caste system. That you are stamped on birth to which caste you belong. And there is nothing on earth that can redeem you from the branding of that caste. So India's greatest leader, Mahatma Gandhi, called the untouchables the people born into the lowest of the lowest caste. Harijan means children of God. Where did Mahatma Gandhi get that idea from? Well, he was educated by the British and went to England to get his law degree. The culture of Magna Carta gave to the man born in a culture of caste system the idea that all men are created equal in the image of God, which today is part of the Indian Constitution. And we, the children of Johnny MacDonald and Sir Wilfrid Laurier, have inverted the entire notion of all men are created equal to all cultures are created equal. It just bewilders me and shatters me. And if the foundation is wrong, then the house built on that foundation cannot stand. You know that and I know that. Culture is upstream. Politics and economics is downstream. You ruin the culture, you have ruined your politics and economics. You know, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran speaks about, and all sacred scripture speaks about, an almighty power as the creator of our world and of us. But it is only in that corner of the world which constitute the cradle of Western civilization, that the idea all men are created equals took root and then flourished. And that backwater of the world, when the Chinese had the greatest civilization, or the Indians had the greatest civilization, or the Arab Muslim world had the greatest civilization, and nobody paid attention to that backwater. Within a few decades, that backwater became the powerhouse in the making of the modern civilization. So it is ideas that impel and move people. And when the ideas are wrong and corrupted and debased, civilization fall apart. It was Shakespeare who said about individual, the best. He put the words in the mouth of Hamlet. What a piece of work is man. Listen to this. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties. In form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. That's what we are, each one of us. That is our potential. That's our challenge. That's what's the meaning, what Maxime puts on the table: individual freedom, personal responsibility, fairness and respect. Nothing has been handed down to you and me. We create this world. Are we up to that challenge? Everything was handed down to Justin Trudeau, and he's a third-grade actor, pretending to be the Prime Minister of this great country of ours. The question is not he's a third-grade actor. The question is, where are we that elected him? That's the question we have to answer. It's easy to ridicule Justin Trudeau. But in Justin Trudeau, we see the inflected image of us. We have forgotten that we are carrying the image that God has given us. So, my friends, by adopting or in adopting official multiculturalism, as the elder Trudeau did, the notion of collective or group identity was introduced alongside that of individual rights. Eventually, demands based on group rights over and above individual rights have come to reshape our liberal democracy and push Canada, as well as other Western democracies, increasingly towards soft despotism of the state, to define for us as individuals what is politically correct and what is not. What is therefore acceptable by the state and what is considered an offense subject to some form of punishment. In due time, the elder Trudeau, however, came to regret the policy of official multiculturalism he had fathered. He eventually dismissed it as an illegitimate offspring of an illegitimate idea. Speaking at a private luncheon arranged for him by the Speaker of the House of Commons in the mid-1990s, Pierre Trudeau, when asked about official multiculturalism, remarked, "No, this is not what I wanted." One parliamentarian attending this private lunch later mentioned that Mr. Trudeau regretted how this policy was twisted to celebrate a newcomer's country of origin and not a celebration of the newcomer becoming part of the Canadian fabric. Indeed, in the last book he co-edited with his principal secretary, Tom Axworthy, titled Towards a Just Society, and wrote a chapter for it, there is no praise nor mention of official multiculturalism, the silence on the subject is shattering. But where have we arrived under Justin Trudeau is the inevitably logical unfolding of the false premise of official multiculturalism. It now means, as Justin Trudeau has stated, Canada has no core value, and that Canada is a post-national state. His slogan of diversity is strength is as nonsensical as all cultures are equal. And Justin Trudeau's notion of Canada as a post-national state can only mean one thing, that in his Canada, national sovereignty is meaningless and to be bartered away for the globalist agenda of one borderless world under UN authority. His signing of the UN Global Compact on Migration is consistent with his view that Canada without core value, and therefore his Liberal government readily agrees to open Canada to mass migration of people from illiberal cultures that will sooner than later overwhelm and undermine Canada's unique liberal culture. Official multiculturalism in Canada has turned out to be, if I borrow Malcolm Muggeridge's phrase, the great liberal death wish. But we, my friends, have awakened to what is at stake in this October federal election. It is the very survival of our country as we have known it. And we will not rest until we have secured our country from those who pander to the globalists, the Islamists, the multiculturalists in our midst. We are not a multicultural country. We are multi-ethnic and a bilingual country. We are Canadians of diverse ethnic origins, and yet united together as Canadians, we cherish those values of individual rights and freedoms that have made Canada one of the most envied countries in the world. We reject the falsehood of diversity is our strength. We instead celebrate our strength in multi-ethnic unity to keep Canada strong and free. I'm immensely proud to introduce to you my friends, Maxime Bernier. There are moments in history of a people that cry out for leadership, and Providence then answers by bringing forth an individual to be that leader in that hour of need. Such is my leader and the leader of the People's Party of Canada. But he's also my friend who describes himself as the Quebecois from Alberta. This self-description is very apt. For Maxime is a native son of Quebec and a great Canadian. He is cut from the same fabric of Canadian history from which was cut the greatly inspiring and charismatic leader in the early decades of the last century, Sir Wilfrid Laurier. Maxime is the embodiment of the words Sir Wilfrid expressed in speaking about himself. Sir Wilfrid said, "I'm a Canadian first, last, and all the time." And so is Maxime. And in speaking about his driving ambition in politics, Sir Wilfrid said, "The governing motive of my life has been to harmonize the diverse elements which compose our country." My friends, I speak to you straight from my heart. Maxime's motive, his driving passion, his most sincere devotion is precisely to meet those very challenges which motivated Sir Wilfrid Laurier and which he so eloquently expressed in our time and in our circumstances. So, without delay, my friends, here is my leader, Maxime.
You're watching TAG TV. You're watching TAG TV.